I just had a question from the conference perspective of what goes into the decision when it comes to the model, whether it's subscription-based or a free model that you opt to go for the conference network. And then for those who opt to go for the free option, how do you see the future of monetizing that and generating revenue to offset the costs that go into it? Obviously, this whether it's free or subscribed, it has a big impact on the viewership.
So at the W.TV and the West Coast Conference, it's completely free, no subscription, no sign up, no login, et cetera. And I think part of the reasoning behind that is we want as many people watching as possible. So I mean, I don't know how many times I've gone to a website and it says, click here to watch, and then you click and it asks you to create a username and password. And I'm like, you know what, it's not worth it. So we want everyone to have access to our streams. And in year 3 now, I think we're really starting to get traction with that. So as you mentioned, the key now is monetizing that. So with our partner Campus Insiders, the schools have the ability to run ads during their broadcasts now, which will be part of the way in which we monetize those broadcasts.
So for us, again, we're a subscription network, and it absolutely comes with some limitations. With that said, I think there's a couple stereotypes that come along with it, that if you are a subscription network, you're losing all of your chances at viewership. I think it forces you to think outside the box, and it forces you to get a little bit more creative than just saying, here's a link, watch our stream, absolutely. But in our case, at least, the nice thing about the subscription revenue is that the athletic directors have said everything gets reinvested back into the network. So that supports some of our personnel, supports some of our infrastructure upgrades, it supports some of our equipment, knowing that that revenue is going not necessarily back to the conference office, even though it's the Ivy League digital network, it's going right back to the schools. So being a subscription network, again, comes with some limitations, and again, our marketing initiative with some of our ESPN3 games, it doesn't make revenue the end-all, be-all. Viewership should always be the first thing that's important. It's the most important thing to expose the league, and it's what we're up here to do. We're a communications platform. That's our jobs, to expose the brand of the Ivy League. But if you are a subscription revenue network, you got to get creative, and knowing that that money is going right back into your schools and right back into the productions makes life a little bit easier, and it makes it work a little bit harder to make everything work.
And not to put you on the spot here, but do you have an example of something that you guys did? Is it like directly engaging alumni with an email blast, or doing something at the stadium? What is something that you have seen that has worked for you?
From a revenue standpoint, I mean, it's kind of continuous, okay. Honestly. It really is. But again, I don't think we've ever had a conversation with our athletics directors that said, how can we get more money? How can we increase the revenue? It's always started with viewership. And if you have more viewership, you'll have more revenue. That's just the way that it's set up. So it really is, how can you market the league? How can you market the network? By putting games on ESPN3, are we losing some revenue? Absolutely. And our athletic directors are completely fine with it because of what the intentions of the network are there to do. So it's never been all about revenue. It's been, how can your marketing initiatives increase the viewership and make sure that we have a strong hold on that?
I would take a dash from Ezra and a dash from Matt there, because we've been on both sides. We were a subscription for several years, and we went free 3 years ago. And part of the philosophy of that was we could always go pay to free, but going the other direction would be a pain point for our fan base. So we experimented by being subscription-based at the beginning, and we didn't keep any revenue at the conference level. It all went back to the schools on a complicated formula of which events they hosted and what share they got of what sports they participated in. That was always fun on an annual basis. But we peaked at, and keep in mind, we're talking about flat number of events over the last 4 years, roughly. We peaked subscription-wise at about 60,000 unique starts. We went free and it immediately jumped to 180. Then last year, 303. And this year, over 550,000 uniques for the same number of events. For us, the jump in viewership has been worth that exchange. We do sell into the broadcast. We create commercial formats for every sport. Half the inventory is conference inventory, and half the inventory is school inventory. Some are better at selling into it than others, but they have the opportunity to make that money back that they were getting off subscriptions because it was never that much money for us to begin with.